Again, Bruce is in Wellington on Zoom, so he's asked me to share this. And we have live streaming.
Yes.
Very good. Welcome to our Zoom attendees. We have apologies from Councillor Clark and Councillor Pottinger. Are there any other apologies?
I haven't heard from Councillor Clark yet.
Bex, I understood she can't do Mondays, is that?
Yeah, that's my understanding, isn't it? Why
Yeah,
we moved we moved the risk and assurance meetings regular time to a different day of the week because she couldn't do Mondays.
But we still have a...
So does someone please move that those apologies accepted? Thank you, Councillor Arnold. Thank you, Councillor Mudson. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, abstentions carried. Thank you. There are no changes to the agenda.
Mr. Jackson, may I just ask, because there are one or two pertinent matters, non-members of the committee involved in any votes that go on today, please? Chief Executive Advisors, yes.
The reason I say that, Mr. Chair, is that the chairperson on Zoom would always say yes to that question.
Thank you.
I would like to raise a few issues on point 2, point 5 and point 10.
Right, we'll let you do that when we get to those items, Your Worship. Jane, can I pass to you to introduce this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just make a few points to set the scene, if you like. First of all, the main purpose of this report, you'll find that in the third paragraph. I'll just read it out. The main purpose of this report is to suggest a plan to transition the EAs away from council over the next 6 months or so in a way that retains the progress that has been made to date and enables council to continue to build its own capability. Secondly, just a reminder of some of the key dates that's got us to where we are today. These are mostly to be found on page 5, but I'll just run through them quickly and add a few other dates in there. So August 2020, we got a letter from DIA. October 2020, we received a governance review from Richard Thompson. November 2020, Council resolved to develop a working together action plan. December 2020, Council appointed 2 EAs, Jeff and Lindsay, for a period of up to 18 months from January 2021. August 2021, we had this 6-month review, again from Richard, plus an impact consulting survey. September 21, Council resolved, passed a suite of resolutions to guide the next steps of the Working Together project, and that included the transition plan for the EAs, which brings us to today's report. If I was talking to slides, this is the third slide. The proposed plan in this report have been guided by the 6-month review and the impact consulting survey, which I've already mentioned. The council resolutions in September, which I've already mentioned, they're in Appendix D. On page 5, you'll find the views of the EAs themselves. And on page 6, the views of the project governance group. And that, of course, includes the Department of Internal Affairs. So from all of that, the last slide, if I had slide, would summarize the key elements of the plan. Firstly, a revised purpose of membership, including a proposed new chair of the governance group. Secondly, a revised purpose and membership, including co-chairs for the chairs group. Thirdly, reduced presence of both EAs at council and committee meetings. Fourthly, the EA's role moving to supporting, mentoring and process focus. Fifthly, the inclusion of a supporting the mayor's group in the working together plan. And you'll find that attached as Appendix B, I think it is. And you'll notice that the working groups have disappeared. All of this to start on the 1st of December. That, of course, will depend on this committee's resolutions to council and council's views on I think it's the 23rd. Then we have a progress check in March, followed by a closeout or legacy report to go to DIA for their response. So we start with a letter and we finish with a closeout report and ask for the response from DIA. So, Mr. Chair, I hope that's enough to set the scene for questions and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Thank you for the paper and work you've done. Firstly, could I ask Bruce to make comments in respect to that?
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
Thanks. And I was going to say, then I'd ask the EAs to make some comments on their retirement plan.
Look, thanks, Ross. I support the approach to the paper. Clearly, it's come through the project governance group, which I'm privileged to sit on, and it's been worked through well in that sense. I also just am conscious that actually the Risk and Assurance Committee has been tasked throughout this process to provide that quasi-independent stand-aside view of actually progress. So I'm reminded of our objective, which in my view is to enable council to operate in a manner which meets the department's expectations and indeed really the expectations of the local government act. And it seems to me that actually this is a really important step because I think it's wise, and I've used it, and it may not be the way Jeff and Lindsay like it. We need to take the training wheels off and prove to ourselves and to the department that we can manage our ways in a manner consistent with the Local Government Act and the Minister's expectations. This is a pathway to dealing with that. The other thing which I think is really important, Ross, and I couldn't help but note it from the governance group and also Jane's paper, is Richard Hardy's wise words, this is now the risk time, which actually we need to do this for ourselves with the minimised support of the EA. So in short, Ross, very happy with the progress to date. I think we're ready to take this move, and I strongly endorse the general tenor and specific nature of Jane's recommendations.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Lindsay and Jeff, any comments you wish to make at this stage?
Look, thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could start, we also support the approach that's being proposed to Council through Risk and Assurance today. We appreciate the extent to which our views have been taken into account in reporting the proposed pathway forward. I can also say that, at least within the Chairs Group and with PGG to an extent also, there's been a degree of socialisation of these proposals, and there's a high probability that there will be a strong measure of support when they get to the Council table. And finally, I think we just need to proceed on an eyes wide open basis and maintain a degree of flexibility and resilience if the future circumstance requires it and the path is not as smooth as we anticipate.
Thank you. Jeff, is there anything you wish to add?
Thanks, Ross. Look, no, Justin, Jane has captured really well the conversations that have taken place since PGG, and in terms of recommendations, fully support.
Thank you. Now invite discussion, questions and comments. Sir Tim.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a few questions I wish to raise. And it was, of course, where does the mayor fit into all this? Is he ex officio, which is the normal case with committees, standing committees, but this is in a different area.
So
And
it's my understanding, Sir Tim, it continues both in the recommendations that the mayor would be ex officio to both the PGG and also the Chairs Group as currently exists.
Mr. Chair, I think it's a question that Mrs. Parfitt, as the report author, might best be able to comment on. I don't believe that the organisation of this group has had ex officio members previously, but Jane may be better able to comment.
There was certainly an expectation that the mayor was included in the project governance group, and the mayor is a regular attendance there, and we would expect that to continue. I'm just looking at the chairs group. The mayor will continue with the same level of inclusion that he has had. So I guess the short answer is we just continue on as previously with the mayor's input wherever he feels he wishes to be. No change from the current operating environment.
And would Claire have voting rights?
Yes, as a member of that committee, you would
Yeah,
have
and I'll
voting
just
rights.
remind you that the chair to date has taken a collaborative approach, and we haven't needed to have any votes, and that would continue as well.
So Tim, did you have another question?
It's also to raise point 5. It's sort of the tendency would be to have a sort of A team and a B team, and that could evolve from that. Sort of, we don't have an upper house, but that's where it would fit in the.
I would think that the purpose of the group and the collaborative approach that's been taken to date would be all inclusive and full knowledge sharing. And from what I've witnessed, has been pretty open discussion and information passed to all councillors.
And if I could just add to that, Mr. Chair, the intention going forward is for more councillors. I think there's a suggestion that 3 councillors move on to the governance group. The chair of the governance group is an elected member, as with the chairs group. So there's going to be more involvement from more councillors going forward.
Yeah, thanks.
The chairs group isn't a structured part of the structure of council. So.
Can you just pull your microphone
sorry.
closer? Jane won't be hearing you. But you are correct. The chairs group is not part of the formal structure of council.
But it is part of the working together project.
Yes.
Well,
And you can see it on Appendix B, how it fits in to this project.
Thanks. Councillor Arnold?
Yeah, just probably we would have follow on from what His Worship's saying there. As I look at number 2 and the future makeup of this group, it says 3 other elected members, not members of the chairs group, yet down on number 5, you're recommending the 2 co-chairs of the groups to be part of that. 2 of those 3. Is that correct? Am I correct in assuming that? So it's 3 as well as those 2.
No.
Two separate things.
Hmm?
So the co-chairs are the co-chairs for the chairs group, and then the PGG is the one that's going to have 3 other people who aren't chairs or part of the chairs group added to them. So
That's right.
So if I'm looking at membership and the chair up top, it says the Deputy Mayor, CEO of Council, Representative of DIA, Chair of Risk and Insurance Committee, 3 other elected members, not members of the Chairs Group, and 2 EAs.
that's for the PGG.
The governance group.
Separate committee,
That
PGG and chairs group.
So this is not the same thing.
No.
That's correct. If you look at Appendix B, you'll see
Read
the
it.
2 different boxes.
His Worship asked a question that came across, and the matter got a little. I think we didn't quite hear the question in the Zoom answer, so it's understandable that there's confusion. The Project Governance Group has always had that composition, and the suggestion is 3 more councillors who are neither chairs nor deputy chairs.
Okay. No, that's good. I agree with that because I'd just like to see a wee bit more.
Yep.
Thanks. Councillor Ludlow.
Thanks, Chair. I think it's worth pointing out that neither of those committees make decisions apart from council. Chairs group can only make decisions if they've been delegated to it specifically, which has only happened once. And PGG has to bring recommendations back to council, Your Worship. So there's, the final say always rests with council.
It's interesting though that the Thompson report referred to actual support for the Mayor, and that's been changed now to well-being for the Mayor. And it just seems a bit wishy-washy to have that.
I think that was referred to, Your Worship, in the initial Thompson report. I think the second report in review moved on from then. Are there any further questions?
Well, the term leadership, of course, rears its head in various areas, and again, it seems that all the blame's being lumped on me, but and I try and fit it into my life, and it's why the leadership issue is slated home to me. And I was at primary school, I was milk monitor and class captain and bus captain, and then I went on to high school and I became a head prefect, and then a student, got to university and became a student leader, and then went into local government and did 2 terms in Waitemata City and 12 terms here in Invercargill City, and I've just never been in a situation where I'm not a leader, and it's just hard to understand the reasoning or why there's been a change.
With respect to Tim, this matter is not about leadership, it's about the transition plan for the external appointees. Bruce, is there anything you want to add at this time?
I think that is the challenge that we're facing, which is though, Ross, around leadership, and I think we need to recognise, including His Worship, the process that we've gone through to get ourselves to this point, and actually what is a feasible way to get ourselves effectively to the finish line, which is the current training. So the right of it is that we've gone through a process in response to observed behaviours by the department, and we've responded. And I think we all have to accept the modifications in the way in which leadership has occurred within the council and actually the firmer basis that we are now on going for. It still requires everybody to play their part and be a leader.
If there is any last questions? Otherwise I was going to move through the resolutions that we have in front of us. I was going to propose that we take them individually, and unless there is consensus from the committee that they'd like to move them in bulk.
I have no problem moving them all as block.
And I'd be happy to second that.
Do you be helpful to the council meeting if the names were?
If we could have the three for point 3, yes.
Yep. I could put Councillor Soper, Councillor Scout, and Councillor Lewis. If they were interested and willing.
All present in the room.
Convenient.
I'm seeing nods of approval.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Darren. I don't see any dissension from the names here.
So the membership would be the Deputy Mayor, the CEO, a representative from DIA, Chair of the Council's Risk and Assurance Committee, and 3 other elected members who are not members of the Chairs Group, and 2 EAs.
That is correct.
Well, I feel uneasy about it. I don't think it's part of local government law, as I understand it, to change structures and responsibilities. There's a process you've got to go through, and I don't think it's enhancing our democratic spirit to have changes of this scale. So I'll be voting against it and have my name recorded.
Councillor Ludlow, you want to make a point?
Thank you, Chair. With respect, Your Worship, the whole process is one that we outlined to DIA at the beginning. There was always a proposal to begin to transition out before the next election, and that's simply what we're going through now. There's no deviation from that original plan that we put forward through after we received their initial letter.
Well, with all due respect, I still think that the word actual support for the Mayor being changed to well-being is sort of lowering the value of that appointment or change.
We'll note your points. The resolutions have been moved and seconded. Could I please ask those to vote now? Those in favour, please say aye.
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 Against?
Aye.
Abstentions? The matter is carried, and thank you, Tim. Tim, we will note your no vote to those resolutions. Again, Jane, thank you very much for the work you've done in the paper. There are no further items of business, so thank you for your attendance and those on Zoom, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Catch you later, guys.